Hello, what's up? Welcome to The Rational Live. It is March 12th, 2021. I'm your host, David Dole. A lot to talk about today. I'm going to answer this question, actually, because I saw it right before I went live. This is from Omega Metal Chase 92. Is the left doomed after not pushing for a $15 an hour minimum wage? Just Kyle Kalinske going off on the left as an embarrassment for working people for not putting up a fight. I think it's broad to say the left is doomed. Is a wage hike doomed? Probably. Because you'll need 60 votes for it. Unless they get rid of the filibuster or there's filibuster reform that somehow allows it to pass. And then you also need Manchin on top of that and Kristen Sinema to vote for it. Unless it's put into another bill the same way, like in a similar fashion to the way the COVID bill was a necessary thing to pass and why it was so important to have the wage raise in there. If there is something else similar coming up like that in the future where they can slip this in, then that would be the only other way to pass it. And again, would have to be through budget reconciliation with 51 votes because you're not getting 60 votes for a wage increase. So we'll have to see. But this definitely was the best chance for that to pass. And I agree, progressives could have fought to keep it in, and they did not. It's crazy how there's always this assumption that, we have to, or Democrats have to always capitulate to, Joe Manchin or conservatives, but it's never the other way around. And if they even try to use their power, which they haven't, but if they tried to use their power, they only needed 6 votes in the House to reject the COVID relief bill to try and force the wage increase in there. If they did that, there would have been all this hate directed towards them from the press. I'm not saying they shouldn't do it because of that. I'm telling you, it's crazy how the media treats Manchin versus how they would treat the progressive side. Because, of course, it's certain things are just normal, are taken for granted in the press, that Joe Manchin's going to be pushing everything conservative, and that's perfectly fine, apparently. And also the opinions and positions of those in the press and how they feel on these issues, because they're largely very conservative. You have millionaires on TV hosting these shows, so they're not economically progressive or left-wing. But yeah, we're going to have to see if there's another chance for it to be passed. But at this point, that was the best opportunity for it. Other comments coming in. Hey, what up? Hey, David from near Toronto. Well, hello. Hello to you from near Toronto. All right. Let me get into what I'm going to talk about today. A little breakdown preview before I even do that, of course. Rational National, therationalnational.com/join. That's the Patreon page. Help support the show, or you can also join on YouTube. Hit the join button. Of course, subscribe if you're not subscribed already. That's free. Hit the like button as well. But supporting me through either Patreon or YouTube or Super Chats or wherever financially helps a lot, especially because YouTube is crazy sometimes. I had a video yesterday get demonetized for hate and harassment, even though it had nothing at all to do with hate or harassment. My video on Bernie praising Lula da Silva of Brazil. That video got flagged for hate and harassment. Now, they reversed it 24 hours later, but by then, the video had already been deplatformed. Less people see it when videos are demonetized. It doesn't get suggested into other videos, so less people see the video. Of course, didn't make any money during that whole time it was demonetized. So it is absolutely crazy how YouTube operates sometimes. I don't normally have issues that insane, but that was just completely out of left field to call a video like that hate and harassment when clearly it was not. And that was a human reviewer apparently doing that. I don't know what's going on there, but this is why it's important to support the show if you can, and it helps me out. All right, let me give you a little preview of today. Sometimes I consider putting what I'm going to talk about in the title, at least one of the videos or one of the segments, but I didn't. So, because this one broke today, I feel like maybe I should have put it in the title, but then maybe if I clipped it out, less people would watch that video. I don't know. And it's easier to consume if it's in just a individual segment as opposed to a long live stream. But that segment that I'm talking about is about Cuomo. So yes, Governor Andrew Cuomo, New York governor, held a press conference today that I will talk about. Completely, some of the things he said, just completely nuts. And this is after several more lawmakers in the state have called for his resignation. I'll get to that very shortly. Also, Sean Hannity and his reaction to Biden's speech on Thursday, just it's a series of clips I think you'll find amusing. Also, Republican voter slams the GOP for opposing the relief bill. I'll get to that, and also how Republicans feel about the relief bill in general. And also, Ilhan Omar publicly pushing Joe Biden over Iran. I'll get to what that's all about. And a few more stories here I didn't break down, but maybe I'll make them into segments. We will see, including Brits reacting to American medicine ads. One of my favorite things. I will show you. All right. Bunch of stuff coming up. Let me just get into it. And yes, my hair is really long. It's if I could cut my hair now, I would. It's too much. It's too much. But I'm not getting my hair cut during COVID. And in Canada right now, we are doing a horrible job vaccinating, well below the U.S. and other major countries. So really not safe here. And actually, we are beginning to get into a third wave with the new variants of the virus. So not a good time to get a haircut. But once I can, I'm telling you, it's happening. It's this hair. I mean, it's not going to be as short as it used to be, but it's too long. I can't deal with this. All right, let me start with this this Cuomo story. New York Governor Andrew Cuomo held a press conference today defending himself against calls to resign. And he made some really ridiculous comments. So I'm going to share a couple of clips from that press conference. Already there is over 55 members of the New York State Legislature that have called for him to resign. On top of that, today, update on that, 8 Democratic representatives now from New York just called on Cuomo to resign in a statement issued within minutes. Jerry Nadler, Jamal Bowman, Mondaire Jones, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Carolyn Maloney, Yvette Clarke, Nydia Velazquez, and Grace Meng. So you have here, in addition to state lawmakers, also people in Congress, members of Congress, calling for him to resign. Now, this is when, before I get to the video, in terms of the resignations, it's not just about the harassment allegations, because the media has been very focused on that for, good reason. Of course, you got to focus on that. But it's also about what he did with nursing homes, which I'll get to more details of in a second. But in terms of Jamal Bowman and AOC, in their statement, they discussed the harassment and the nursing home scandal as well, which I think is a major piece of this that, again, is largely being ignored. But let me show you part of what Andrew Cuomo said in a press conference shortly after he was called to resign. And for the live audience, it's right behind me. Look at this. That's because it's a QuickTime video. I had to hide it behind me. But this is the first clip. Yes, it is. All right. Check this out.
Politicians who don't know a single fact, but yet form a conclusion and an opinion, are, in my opinion, reckless and dangerous. The people of New York should not have confidence in a politician who takes a position without knowing any facts or substance. That, my friends, is politics at its worst. Politicians take positions for all sorts of reasons, including political expediency and bowing to pressure. But people know the difference between playing politics, bowing to cancel culture, and the truth. People know the difference between playing politics, bowing to cancel culture, and the truth. Let the review proceed. I'm not going to resign. I was not elected by the politicians. I was elected by the people. Part of this is that I am not part of the political club. And you know what? I'm proud of it.
All right. Before I go on here to some more comments, not part of the political club. I'll get to that in just a minute, as Cuomo himself discusses how, just a minute later in this same press conference, discusses how, in fact, he is part of a political club. But before I get to that clip, just a completely insane comment. He says here, quote, politicians who don't know a single fact, bowing to cancel culture and the truth. Now, this is very, very misleading, because in terms of the harassment allegations, nobody except for Cuomo and the accusers know for a fact what happened. But in a situation like this, you have to take all the evidence, what's coming up, what people are saying, and weigh that against Cuomo and his history, how he's treated people. So lawmakers in the state and in Congress have taken the educated position here that looking at all of these allegations, including the 6 women that have come out with their allegations, and of course the nursing home, what he did with nursing homes, which, by the way, I'll show you right now, because this is a major piece of it that, again, he went to largely ignore in his press conference. But in February, Cuomo admitted to withholding nursing home deaths. And it's not just about withholding the deaths. It's also about the fact that he gave them corporate immunity that is likely linked to a $1.5 million political contribution. So this is a major piece of this. This is a fact that everybody knows about. Yes, the harassment allegations are still being investigated, but this is a fact everyone knows about, and this alone is enough for him to resign. So to treat this like people don't know the facts. It's all about cancel culture. Cancel culture after looking at what he did in the state, protecting nursing homes while hiding deaths in nursing homes, after getting a massive political donation. Give me a break. So, not about cancel culture. Now, on the issue of his political, not part of a political club, here is what Andrew Cuomo said himself, literally just a minute later in this press conference.
For the people of the state, look, they have known me for 40 years. They elected me Attorney General. They elected me governor 3 times. I have been in the public eye my entire life. My entire life, I have been under public scrutiny since I was 23 years old and ran my father's campaign.
So, how can Cuomo possibly present himself as a political outsider, not part of the political club, when he ran his father's campaign for governor? His father, Mario Cuomo, was governor of New York. How? Of course you're part of a political club if you've been, by your own words, under scrutiny from the public since you were 23 years old. Your father, a former governor. You now a governor for a long time. How are you not part of the political club? You are the epitome of the political club in New York. Absolutely insane comments here from Andrew Cuomo. And really it shows you, after hearing something like that, why people don't believe him. The guy lies with impunity. And the way he treats people is not just about the harassment allegations. It's also about, generally, lawmakers in the state, how they discuss being treated by Andrew Cuomo in terms of him yelling at them, bombarding them. The way he treats lawmakers in the state is the way a mafia boss treats their people. So this is the idea that anybody here right now should have any reason to believe Cuomo over anybody else is just insane. And even if you want to, let's say all those allegations are completely false, the 6 allegations completely false. How about the nursing home deaths? How about the fact that he took that donation? How about the fact that he gave them corporate immunity? That alone is worth his resignation. All right. And he will not resign. He won't. He said in that press conference he's not going to resign. But we'll see when these investigations come out that he is putting so much hope in. We'll see. But again, the nursing homes alone, enough of reason to resign. All right. Excuse me, got to prep the next story. I will be right back. All right. No real prepping needed. It's one tab. But I think I saw a super chat earlier. Let me grab it. Of course, the YouTube page isn't working, so I got to go somewhere else and find the super chats. There needs to be a new competitor in this space. I think about it's good not to have a boss in the traditional sense. But then I think about, no, I do have a boss. It's YouTube. It's a computer. It's an algorithm that I can't talk to, that I can't reason with. Constantly running into issues. It's absolutely incredible or insane how broken this platform is sometimes. But let me open up the other page so I can read these chats. All right, here we go. RN says, "You're my favorite lefty YouTuber. Thank you for what you do." Thank you, RN. Much appreciated. Lawrence says, "I would get my hair cut too. I haven't had a haircut in 14 months. Every time I go to eat, my hair goes in my mouth. It's really gross." This is what I've learned. Do I have one here? Yes. Get one of these. It is a headband. headband. I have a metal one. I have a cloth one. This also works. So whenever I'm like eating or washing dishes or I don't know, doing something where my hair gets in the way, put on one of those. It's great. It gets the hair out of your eyes and becomes less of an issue. Gina McGrath says, with the relief bill going into law and GOP senators retiring, do you believe Dems will have an advantage in 2022 or will not, going further with relief and Americans' short attention spans doom the Dems? I think short attention spans is a important point here because it really depends what Biden and Democrats do for the next 2 years. If they don't do anything else for the next 2 years, I think they're going to be hurt. If they continue, though, this investment into people, actually show, not just show, actually fight and get a wage increase, and who knows what else they may do, but show a fight and actually get more wins, then it will benefit them. But if this relief bill is the only thing, yeah, people have short attention spans and it's going to be forgotten. Even though, as I discussed, there's a lot of good in this bill, even though it doesn't have a major piece like a wage increase. The fact that a average family of four can get $5,600 is pretty good because your kids are also getting the exact same amount of money that you are. So average family of four gets $5,600. Then in addition to that, there is a $3,600 child benefit, which is improved child tax credit, where it actually sends the money out now monthly. So if you have a kid under 5, you get $300 a month. If you have a kid over 5 or over 6, it's $3,000 for the year. So it's almost like a quasi UBI in a sense if you have kids. If they continue those sorts of policies, it's really going to benefit them. And by the way, that lasts, I believe, only for a year or two. So they really have to also extend these policies as well, because if right before the midterms, all of a sudden people are not getting that cash into their account, that's going to impact them. So Democrats need to work to make that stuff permanent. Who else here? Literal Ills says, Cuomo literally sounds like Trump, LOL. Yeah. Cancel culture. People don't know the facts. Only he has the facts. Yes, very similar approach for sure. Blue mega. All right. I'll pause there. Actually, let me refresh just to make sure. Okay, pausing there. The next story, which I already have prepped. This will likely be a quick one, but I want to share this since I found this funny. On Thursday, Joe Biden gave a speech marking the one-year anniversary of COVID-19 being labeled a pandemic and also detailed the vaccine rollout and relief plan. And somehow, Sean Hannity at Fox News made this into a segment about Donald Trump. So I want to share this clip show. I found this on Twitter, posted by John Whitehouse here of Media Matters. Check out this incredible compilation. This is Sean Hannity's segment on Joe Biden's speech.
President Donald Trump, Donald Trump's President Trump, Donald Trump, President Trump, Donald Trump, Donald Trump, Donald Trump, Donald Trump, Donald Trump, Donald Trump,
President Trump, Trump to the Trump administration,
Donald Trump, Trump administration, Donald Trump,
Donald Trump, Donald Trump administration, President Trump,
Dr. Seuss, Mr. and Mrs. Potato Head, Pepe Le Pew, Dumbo, Peter Pan, Donald Trump, President Donald.
All right. I don't know how. I guess I could go back and watch the full segment. Didn't have time. I don't really care. But I don't know how you make a segment about Biden's speech into one about Donald Trump. How he said Donald Trump that many times after Joe Biden gave a speech. I have barely talked about Trump since he left office because honestly, there really isn't a reason to unless I want to get clicks, especially on Facebook. Facebook, my videos post on YouTube and Facebook. Facebook, any video about Trump gets a ton of views. But I don't care enough about him to cover whatever's happening with him right now. He's not in any position of power. Yes, the base, the conservative base, absolutely loves Trump still think he won the election over Joe Biden. But in terms of what power he has over politics right now, doesn't really have much. Unless he does something, there really isn't any reason to talk about him. But Fox News, of course, has a different agenda. They understand how popular Donald Trump is. They got to keep the man, the name alive, at least for the next 4 years, or at least until they find someone else to praise. So they're going to inject Donald Trump's name in every story imaginable and try and talk about it in a way that I imagine they did here, where, remember the good times? Donald Trump did that. The vaccine, Donald Trump did that. While also disregarding completely all the COVID deaths and all the positive results of people having COVID-19. Disregarding all that, but Donald Trump, Donald Trump, Donald Trump, Donald Trump. Everything Joe Biden's doing now, Donald Trump. That's what they're going to do. Because what else do they have? What else do they have? You have here a COVID plan that, in Joe Biden's COVID plan, that while it has, as I've discussed many times, some serious faults, like taking out the wage increase, it has actually a lot of money for people, including $5,600 for the average family of four, because kids get the same amount as adults do in this bill, unlike Trump's bill. Obamacare subsidies, where nobody now is paying over 8.5% of their income on healthcare premiums. That's a huge benefit, a huge change from where it was. Child care benefit, so you're actually getting sort of a quasi-universal basic income if you have a child. I mean, there are a ton of benefits in here, cash benefits for Americans that will help to alleviate some of the issues. Now, of course, none of the policies in the COVID relief bill are systemic, so there are no real systemic changes here. It's all still just a Band-Aid. That's the criticism of the bill from the left. But from the right, there is no way to criticize this bill. So what they have to go to is just reminiscing about Donald Trump and somehow making him the reason that anything good now is potentially happening. So just really crazy to see what's happening on Fox News. And really, until they find a new dear leader, this is likely going to be a lot of the segments, at least in regards to anything Joe Biden does. All right. Trump. One last, I just want to play this again, because I forget this guy's name. Mark Levin, that's it. This guy's voice is something else. And this guy is a radio guy. People listen to him on the radio.
Trump, Donald Trump, Trump administration. President Trump.
Can you imagine listening to this for an hour? Listen to this guy's voice.
Trump administration. President Trump.
Dr. Seuss.
Just absolutely ridiculous. Okay. Man. All right. Are there any more chats? Let me see before I move on to the next segment. Trump, Donald Trump. Dr. Seuss. I like that transition. Melissa H says, go to Rockfin. Zero censorship can stay on YouTube too. It's just too much. I don't have the bandwidth to learn a new platform, put out videos. If somehow at some point Rockfin takes over YouTube or comes close to it, like this is why I'm on Facebook and Twitch, because those are, somewhat competitors to YouTube, and there are different audiences there that I want to be able to address. But it's just to add a fourth platform at this time doesn't make a whole lot of sense for me. Samantha Sider gives me a thumbs up. Thank you so much for your super chat. All right. Let me prep the next story. All right. I will be right back as I prep this next story.
We did meet a couple of people in town.
All right. I'm back. This next story is also pretty good. It's about the COVID relief bill and Republican views. A reporter at CNN spoke with Republicans in West Virginia to get their thoughts on Biden's COVID relief bill. These are Republican voters. So just a quick overview of the relief bill. It includes $5,600 for the average family of four, or $1,400 for individuals that make under a certain amount. $3,000 to $3,600 in a child benefit that gets paid out monthly in a sort of a quasi-universal basic income, and also lowers healthcare premiums to the point where nobody is paying more than 8.5% in healthcare premiums. Now, with that in mind, check out what these voters in West Virginia, again, these conservative, Republican, West Virginia voters, how some of them feel about this COVID relief plan.
We did meet a couple of people in town who agree with Republicans in Congress who all gave the bill a thumbs down.
I don't like none of the stuff they're doing right now. There's a lot of waste in the money.
But almost all we talk to here feel differently. Shiran Ray Justice has a disability and hasn't been able to find a job.
How do you feel about the fact that no Republican senators voted for this COVID relief bill? They all said no to it.
Yeah, that's some bull. That's some hogwash bullshit there. I mean, they should. I mean, I apologize for my language, but they should loosen up a little bit. You know what I mean?
Kevin Johnson, the laid-off miner, says he voted for Donald Trump and usually supports Republicans, but disagrees with how the GOP has handled this. With this aid, he says, he will now be able to
pay up the rent and pay up the bills because we're behind, you know, as well as everybody else. I'm sure I ain't the only one that's got a tough time.
Tough times for so many, and now the hope things will start getting better soon.
All right. You see there, I mean, as I've said a million times, as I said during the Democratic primary, as I said back in 2016, progressive economic policies are incredibly popular. So even though Biden's bill really does not go far enough, doesn't have a wage increase, for example, that was taken out of the House bill, it does have these direct payments that right now people desperately need. And not a single Republican lawmaker voted for this bill, despite the fact that Republican voters actually want it. To give you some more data here, not just 3 people in a video, some polling on this. So this is a Morning Consult poll. Overwhelming bipartisan support for the American Rescue Plan. 75% of all voters want it. But when you break it down even further, 90% of Democratic voters, 59% of Republican voters, and 71% of independents. But look at this. 59% of Republican voters support the COVID relief bill. Because again, Republicans also need these cash payments, need this direct relief. And to break it down even further, this is a Pew Research poll finding a huge gap in support for Biden's relief bill between lower income and upper income Republicans. Nearly 2/3 of lower income Republicans support it. Showing you the real divide here, at least in terms of Republicans, is the class divide, where you have the lower income Republicans, 63% of them supporting the COVID relief bill, but upper income Republicans at 25%. And again, knowing that not a single Republican lawmaker voted for this bill, who do you think they represent? Do they represent the ones that want it or the ones that don't? Obviously, they represent the upper class, the billionaires, corporations. And in many ways, as I've said a billion times, Democrats do as well, just to a slightly lesser degree. Evidence this COVID bill. So it really is incredible just how little Republicans care about their actual base, their voters, and how they always get away with it. And ultimately, this gets down to cultural issues versus economic issues. Do these conservative voters care more about cultural issues? Do they care more about voting for racism? Or do they care more about improving their material conditions? And by and large, it appears they care more about the cultural issues. They will go broke. They will pay more for health care just so that they can support somebody who's racist. Because that's the only explanation here. And a lot of it as well is, people grow up in a certain culture. Republican, Democrat is very much, and for many people, like more of a team sport as opposed to actually politics and voting for who helps you. So looking at it through that lens as well, there's just a cultural assumption almost that whoever you voted for as a kid, who your parents voted for, that's who you're going to vote for. And that goes both ways as well. There are many Democratic voters that also look at this as a team sport as opposed to looking at the issues, which is why, especially, I mentioned Facebook earlier in this live stream. When I post a video critical of Joe Biden, especially on Facebook, where there's a lot of older voters, a lot of boomers, I get tons of comments of people commenting, criticizing me for criticizing Joe Biden. Because those kinds of voters exist no matter what party. But when it comes to an issue like this, where people desperately need COVID relief, majority of lower income in both parties desperately want the bill passed, and not getting a single Republican vote for it, it shows you just how disconnected Washington is from the average individual. All right. Okay. I got another story coming up and several other stories that I did not break down yet. More chats here. Let me grab some of these. Ryan Nowicki says, do you think Biden will follow Obama's lead on restarting relations on Cuba? There is a possible lung cancer vaccine available from them. If so, I heard somebody say, or I read a headline or a tweet or something about someone saying Cuba has cured certain kinds of cancer. I have to look more into that because I did not know about this. If that's true, that is incredible. We will see. I have not heard anything since Biden has been inaugurated about Cuba, so we'll see how that moves forward. Alicia Rousey, thank you for your super chat. And by the way, Cuba, fantastic country. In fact, I was there a couple years ago. It's just complete. Anyways, yeah, the long history between the U.S. and Cuba is just completely. It's stupid that it's not been completely, opened back up for Americans. Mr. Sir says you deserve to be able to afford an intern. You should do an intern hiring fundraising drive, like with what TYT did with TYT Politics. Until I can hire somebody full time, or at least part time, and I know what I need them to do, then I'm not going to do it. Part of the issue is I enjoy everything. I enjoy editing. I love editing, so I'm never going to hand off editing to somebody else. I like being the producer here when I'm live. In terms of it, any extra help, really, it would need to be somebody in the room with me. And right now, I shoot out of my home. It's a small apartment, not a lot of room here, especially with a fiance and a child, and COVID going on as well. Not the right time to try and hire somebody, but it's something I'm going to have to continue looking at because I'm limited in terms of what I want to do, especially when it comes to like the Discord, for example. I have a Discord. If you don't know about it, I have a Discord channel. You can go and if you're on Patreon, there's a link to it if you become a patron. It's also shared sometimes in the chat. You can check it out. But like having more community engagement that way, I want to do more of that. But it's tough when I'm doing everything. So there's definitely also merchandise. I would love mugs, shirts, hats, all that stuff. So these are things that are in my mind to do at some point, but I definitely would need a little help with some of that stuff because I just don't have the bandwidth. RN says, what can we actually do in real life to push Manchin/cinema? It's hard to know. There is a new pack from Corbin Trent. Corbin Trent, I forget his position, but he used to work for AOC. And he has a new pack with, I believe, Shoykat Chakrabarti. And they have been putting out ads in West Virginia and in Arizona trying to push Manchin and Sinema to the left and criticizing them for being, say, against the wage increase, for example. So, maybe financially, if you're able to donate to their Act Blue, but it's hard to, like, unless you're in those states and can call their offices or push them in some other way, especially during COVID. It's still, it's hard to get people together to gather and hold some kind of rally. So a lot of what you can do because of that is kind of put off for now. But I don't know. Share videos that attack them. It's really hard to say how you can actually push them, because ultimately the real problem is that they listen to their donors, lobbyists, special interests that have control over them. And also on top of that, like Joe Manchin has a stake in a company, a 50% stake in a company that benefits from low wages. So when he's that financially intertwined with a company benefiting from not paying their employees a living wage, you're not going to move that guy on that issue. So it's, again, unless you put that bill specifically, into something like a COVID relief package where he feels forced to vote on it, he's never going to vote for a wage increase by itself. And that's just one issue, because you're talking about, in general, how do you push them? It depends on the issue, I guess. But some issues are going to be easier than others because of those certain interests that they have. But doesn't mean you don't try and don't stop. But it's really hard to say because they have interests that supersede what people actually want. DVDV says lower/middle class should never vote Republican. I completely agree. Unfortunately, a lot of people don't see it that way. All right. Next. Oh, wait, there's more chats. Let me grab these chats, and then I'll do next story. Radzoso says Marcia Fudge was confirmed as HUD secretary, so the Ohio 11th Congressional District special election is a go. Donate to Nina Turner if you can. Yes, absolutely. I'll definitely be doing more videos on Nina Turner in the run-up to that. She's the favorite. Who else is as well known as Nina Turner? Of course, it matters what that district wants, but Nina definitely, she would be incredible if she was in Congress. Tyler says Rochester police has gone rogue. 3 preventable murders in 1 month. City mayor covering it up. I don't know anything about this. Is that the same Rochester police that did nothing about those cops pushing over that elderly man that hit his head on the ground? Or am I thinking, or is that Buffalo? I forget if that was Buffalo or Rochester. But I don't know about this. But maybe I'll look into it. Naryui says, are you a sock dem sock, or socialist? What would you describe yourself as politically? Your hair's looking great as always. To be honest, I don't like labeling myself because I'm always moving. I'm constantly evolving my personal positions. The way I view my job is less about discussing ideology, more about discussing day-to-day politics and news and what the current fight is and where currently we can go. So in that sense, I guess I'm more of a sock dem because I'm focused more on the here and now as opposed to looking about, 50 years in the future, what's possible. So it wouldn't really be a proper, there really is no way to properly define me, at least in terms of the work that I do. Just because I'm so focused on what is happening in the moment. But in terms of, I agree with the analysis that Marxists have of capitalism for sure. But I'm not as much into, the readings enough to actually call myself a socialist or a Marxist. But I'm very sympathetic to all those arguments. And yeah. Jose Castillo says, are you going to talk about the Kentucky Senate criminalizing insulting police? I will talk about that. I saved that tweet about it. So I'll talk about it later. I don't have a story around it because I don't know much about Kentucky or about this vote, but I will talk about it in a bit. All right. I'm going to put a little pause. I'll prep the next story. Be right back. All right, I'm back. I saw some funny chats, if I can find them. If YouTube worked for me. About people trying to... Here we go. David is an anarcho-rational. Sure. Anarcho-rational. I like that. Anarcho-socialist? I don't think I'm an anarcho-anything, but again, I'm very open to all these ideas. But yeah, what I do is different than, say, what, Vosh does, for example. I'm not all that focused on ideology as much as I am on the here and now and just what's politically possible in the moment. And as you can see from my content, very focused on electoral politics. Others are less so focused on that. So it's just like the issue I find as well with categorizing yourself is sometimes people just immediately write you off and won't even listen to what your argument is going to be because they just assume that what you're going to say is not going to agree with them, or not going to be, a worldview they agree with. So it just, based on the content that I put out, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to put myself into a box. All right. Next story, right now. The Iran deal was arguably the most important thing Barack Obama accomplished as president. So, of course, Donald Trump tore it up, eventually almost bringing the two countries to the brink of war following the assassination of Iranian General Qasem Soleimani. But, potentially, Joe Biden, you would think, as Obama's former VP, would want to get back into the Iran deal. But there really hasn't been a whole lot of talk about it since he's become president. Here comes, though, Ilhan Omar. So she actually questioned Biden's Secretary of State, Tony Blinken, on Biden's refusal to take the first step to get back into the Iran deal. Check out what she said here.
It seems like there's a kind of a stalemate with Iran negotiations, as both sides have been waiting for the other side to make the first move. It is a plain fact that we're the ones who left the deal. Why shouldn't we be the one that make the first move to rejoin?
Thank you. A couple of things on that. First, as you noted, we've been very clear that the path to diplomacy is open, and we're fully prepared to engage on it. And the president said repeatedly that if Iran comes back into compliance, we will too, and then we will try to work on the other issues that divide us, including lengthening and strengthening the agreement and dealing with these other issues that we just discussed.
I'm sorry, Mr. If we are not re-entering the deal, how do we expect them to be in compliance? Shouldn't that happen first before we ask them to be in compliance?
You just can't re-enter the deal by flipping a switch. We pulled out of the deal 3 years ago. The Iranians have unfortunately moved further and further away from their own compliance, and so there are and there would be challenging issues to work through that require actually talking about it that are necessary. That's why when the European Union invited all of the parties, or in our case, former parties to the deal, to start having that conversation, we immediately said yes. The Iranians have said no, and really the ball is in their court to see if they're interested in pursuing diplomacy. We are.
All right. First here, good on Ilhan Omar for bringing up this issue. It has not gotten a lot of attention so far, and it's something that would be it's a no-brainer for the U.S. to take the first steps by dropping all sanctions and getting back into the Iran deal. Tony Blinken's logic here is completely out of whack. Yeah, maybe the Iranians don't want to go to the table and talk to you until you drop the sanctions. Why would they? You tore up the deal. To have Americans tear up the deal and then expect the Iranians to take the first step to get back into the deal when it was you that got rid of it, you abolished it. First of all, it breaks trust, because even if you get back in, they need to know it's not gonna be ripped up again. They need to know it's actually gonna be permanent this time. So it's on Americans, it's on the U.S. government to take the first steps to initiate getting back into the deal. And I mean, CNBC headline here: Iran rejects informal nuke talks with U.S. and EU, insists Biden drop sanctions first. Like this is an obvious step. I don't understand why there's any debate at all over this. Again, if you make a deal with anybody and they screw up, is it then on you to go back to them and beg to be back into the deal? No, it's on the person that screwed up to come back to you if they actually want to get back in the deal. I don't know how this is even an argument. CNN here, a little more background on this. Donald Trump famously yanked the U.S. out of the 2015 nuclear deal despite the fact that Iran was abiding by its terms and European allies fiercely opposed the move. He ordered the killing of a top Iranian general and sustained a maximum pressure campaign of unparalleled financial sanctions against Iran. Soon after his election loss to Biden, Trump reportedly asked advisors for options to strike Iran militarily. That Trump's presidency concluded without open U.S.-Iran conflict may be lucky for everyone. Yes, it is. Biden has stated an intent to rejoin the nuclear deal, while also signaling he hopes a more expansive agreement can be reached soon after. Let me just stop there. There should be no talk of expanding the agreement until they're back in the original agreement, because already, I think this initially already scares off Iranians from getting back in. Just get back in the initial deal. And if anything, it would be on the Americans to sweeten the deal to get Iran back in. Because again, they're the ones that screwed up. The idea that Iran should face, I don't know, whether it's further sanctions or further restrictions, when again, the US screwed up here, it's just completely insane. If he is serious about a diplomatic course correction on Iran that contains its nuclear activities, his administration needs to move fast in doing so. Yeah, this should be one of, obviously we don't know what's happening behind the scenes, but this should be a major priority right now for Joe Biden, as time is of the essence in a situation like this. So just get back in the initial deal. Hopefully we hear more about this. I'm glad Ilhan Omar spoke about it, but we need to hear more pressure from Democrats in the House and in the Senate on pushing Joe Biden to get back into the Iran deal. All right. They don't want peace, says somebody. It's hard to disagree with you. It's crazy when you have, it's Obama's deal. Like, you couldn't have put a more perfect person in power if you wanted to get back into a deal that happened under Barack Obama. His VP, you'd think it would be a no-brainer. It's amazing there is any debate about this at all. All right, those are the main stories, but I got some smaller ones I did not make a proper segment for. But let me see if there's more chats before moving on. There is. Dan Somoflange says, I'm sure I said your name wrong, sorry. Says, do you think, in brackets, hope, there will be a rush of activism and political engagement once the pandemic goes away nearly completely? I do think and hope, yes. I feel like people have been held in for so long. I mean, to be fair, we did see a bit of it with Black Lives Matter protests last year. But I think more people are going to be willing to get out there once the vaccinations are widely distributed. So I think so, but especially I hope so. We will see. Adam Bryceland says, "Hey David, it's been a while. How you been? Anyways, I'm so upset with the squad. All they do is tweet." Yeah, I partially agree with you there. They definitely could have done a lot in terms of the COVID relief bill, as I discussed earlier in the show, to block it, to try and put the wage increase back in it. At the same time, also recognize they don't control Congress. So their power is limited, but in the places where it is limited, they should be using it. And they could have used it on this bill. The reason why it was so important to push for the wage increase in this bill is because it was being passed through budget reconciliation, requiring only 51 votes. You're not going to get a wage increase with 60 votes. It's possible they get rid of the filibuster, but Manchin's against that. Sinema's against that. Filibuster reform is the best they can hope for. And again, it's going to be incredibly tough to get the 60 votes necessary unless something is done about the filibuster or it's somehow passed through budget reconciliation through another bill. But yeah, that is why it was so important to push them on that issue. And as I discussed earlier, if only 6 of them had stopped the bill in the House, and for the very reason of getting the wage increase back in there, they may have been able to move Democrats in the Senate on supporting it. Or it would have come down to a showdown, and maybe they would have taken even more out of the bill. It's impossible to know how that would have ended up, but you don't know unless you try, right? So at some point, you expect them to actually use the power that they have, especially the Progressive Caucus, that is now a more rejuvenated Progressive Caucus, unlike the previous one. This one is a little more actually progressive. But if they don't use their power, then what's the point of the Progressive Caucus? So I fully am sympathetic to those criticisms. All right. Should I show you some one more chat before I move on? As part of the JCPOA, the Iran deal, Iran has the right to enrich if Western parties don't comply. In other words, Iran is still operating within the framework of the agreement. Oh, interesting. That is an interesting point. All right. But anyways, I don't want to get too deep in the weeds here, but are they enriching uranium to a greater degree than what is allowed within the deal? Because my understanding is that they are, but again, they're not in the deal. They didn't tear it up. The U.S. did. It would be under their full right to do what they want right now. And it's on Americans to take the steps to actually get back in and potentially take a hit. They screwed up. They should be the ones taking a hit here. They should be the ones trying to sweeten the deal for the Iranians. But of course, we're not seeing that. All right. Other stories. Let me see here what I had saved. Oh, this. I actually have not read through all this. But I want to, I saw this thread the other day, and I laughed to myself before checking out the replies, because I can sympathize with this as a Canadian. In fact, let me give you, I'll properly intro this in case it somehow turns into a segment. Who knows? During Oprah's interview with Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, you had the Brits reacting to American medicine ads. So because the interview played early, in terms of the American station playing it early in the UK, a lot of residents in the UK checked out the interview early, and because of that, saw a lot of what Americans have to watch in terms of ads for medicine. And as a Canadian, I also relate to this, because when I'm watching American stations and these ads come up, they're just so absurd. But here are some tweets reacting to these pharmaceutical ads. So this one here, if these medicine ads are what it's like to not have an NHS, I never want to experience that. Now, how are the side effects of the medicine in American ads more lethal than the thing they're treating? LOL, these American ads, though, totally forgot about medicine being advertised out there. American ads are so funny. How are they advertising medicine? I mean, it's important to see threads like this and just reactions like this because it gives you perspective. If you grow up watching these ads, it's perfectly normal for you to see pharmaceutical ads on television. It's not normal for anybody else. Especially, I think somebody else points out here, it's weird for these ads to say, ask your doctor. Why should you be asking your doctor about medicine when the doctor should know about the right medicine to give you? So again, and it's because you have this entire system in the U.S. Where these massive companies, Big Pharma, making a ton of money off of pushing their particular pill, even though their pill is very similar to another pill. But instead of having just one for everybody that is maybe mass produced by the state, you have all these smaller yet still large corporations producing these pharmaceuticals to make a ton of money off of. I'm watching the Megyn interview recording, and yet again, I can't understand why American TV ads are like, here we go, quote, ask your doctor for, or tell your doctor. Why the F would you be the one to tell a doctor what medicine to give you? Maybe I'm too European to get it, but WTF. Help, why are all American ads about medicine? All right, maybe a few more. I remember the first time I saw American TV, drugs, cars, food, drugs that stop your food allergy symptoms, processed shite that replaces real food, drugs that help dampen the other drug symptoms. Now over to stew for sports. These medical adverts and the side effects, though, American healthcare truly is a business. There we go. Good place to stop. Yes, it is. One of the things definitely not addressed in the COVID relief bill, though I discussed earlier how the relief bill actually does have it cuts healthcare premiums to a max of 8.5% of your income. That is an obvious benefit that really has not gotten a lot of attention in the press, but that is a huge change to Obamacare. Nobody paying more than 8.5% of your income on healthcare premiums. And by the way, most are paying a lot less than that. So if you're making around 50 grand, your premium goes from about 6.2% of your income now down to 2% of your income on a silver plan. And if you're making under $19,000 a year, you pay nothing at all in healthcare premiums. So some major benefits there in the bill, but in terms of pharmaceuticals, it appears it's the same old thing. All right. Likely not a segment, but fun to read that anyways. I also saw this today. Just amazing. The Kentucky Senate votes to make it a crime to insult a police officer. Boost, quote-unquote, rioting penalties, 22 to 11. If this isn't anti-free speech, I don't know what is. In fact, this should be challenged. Because this cannot be legal. I mean, the idea that you can't insult a police officer. It's illegal to insult a police officer. I just don't. It's so ridiculous that there has to be laws now to protect the feelings of sensitive cops. Completely insane. And do you see Ben Shapiro, Dave Rubin, the other free speech frauds out there talking about this is a real real threat to free speech? I haven't seen any of that because, of course, they don't care. Dr. Seuss, though, cancel culture. Mr. Potato Head, don't you call him Potato Head. He's Mr. Potato Head to you. Yeah, that's what they're focused on. But actual free speech issues, no, they don't care. What else here? This I wish I had a proper breakdown of. But I just want to mention it because it's a big deal. HuffPost Canada completely shuttered, all jobs lost after BuzzFeed bought them. And by the way, this happened 2 weeks after HuffPost formed a union in Canada. Now, apparently it's not related because it's more related to BuzzFeed buying HuffPost. But still, HuffPost Canada, one of the few places I actually relied on for to break down just basic political news, and now they're gone. The state of journalism, especially online journalism, is just I feel my heart goes out to anybody in that industry because there are less and less outlets to actually work for. And it's getting to the point now where really you kind of have to start your own thing, be it on, YouTube or Twitch or Substack or wherever, because there really isn't a whole lot of opportunity out there for journalists. Also, this. I saved this for some reason. 61% of Arizonans, actually, let me turn on my Streamlabs display. This way, if a chat comes up, I will know. So 61% of Arizonans say passing major bills is more important than keeping filibuster. So Kyrsten Sinema is against the filibuster, is for the filibuster, against getting rid of it. And here you have her state disagreeing with her. But of course they do. Her state also wants a increase in wages that she voted against. By the way, happening while Mark Kelly, the other senator from Arizona, voted for the wage increase, appears open to getting rid of the filibuster. And that was a guy, by the way, who was a Republican primary voter in 2012. So Mark Kelly, the other Democratic senator, was a Republican voter, yet voted for the wage increase, is fine with getting rid of the filibuster. And you have here Kyrsten Sinema, a former member of the Green Party. Yes, Kyrsten Sinema was a member of the Green Party. Also, you go back in her timeline, several tweets about wanting to increase wages and discussing how could anybody be against this? And she voted against it. Let me see if there are any chats I missed before moving on. There is. Douglas B. says, what Twitter tools do you use on computer and mobile? I don't. I use Twitter. I feel like maybe I should use some Twitter tools, but no. Everything I do is by hand. When a video goes out, YouTube used to automatically post your video to Twitter. You could check a box to do it. They stopped doing that. So now every time I post a video, I have to go manually into my phone. I know it's not a big deal for most people, but I have a lot going on here. To go into my phone, hit the share button, share it on Twitter, retweet it on my account. I'm sure there are other ways to get around that. I know there are programs that deal with that. But setting it up is just, again, if I had someone to work for me, these are things I would make them do. But until I can afford to keep somebody on full time confidently, because YouTube income is so up and down, I don't know what I'm making one month to the next, which is why Patreon, I would rather rely on Patreon because I actually know for the most part what's coming in each month. But because it's inconsistent, I can't exactly hire anybody just yet. But if you know of any Twitter tools that would be beneficial to me, then let me know. All right. What else did I save here? Let's see. I have not watched this. I'm going to guess that an ad's going to pop up first. There we go. Yeah, let's not watch this while I'm waiting. But this is about Anderson Cooper asks Chuck Schumer if Manchin basically has de facto veto power on legislation, which it sure seems like he does. So while you've seen the jokes going around about President Manchin.
You got the bill across the finish line in the Senate. It really came down to an 11th hour agreement with conservative.
Hold up. Appears to be loud. All right.
You got the bill across the finish line in the Senate. It really came down to an 11th hour agreement with conservative Democratic Senator Joe Manchin. Given the narrow majority, does Manchin have de facto veto power over future legislation?
Well, look, originally Joe Manchin wanted to do an amendment with Portman. I said, Senator Portman, I said, that's going to kill the bill, Joe. That is going to kill the bill. He thought about it for several hours and realized that and then said, okay, let's come to a compromise. And we did. We didn't change things very much. We changed it a little in his direction. I would have preferred not to do it. But this bill, even with that change, is so overwhelmingly strong.
I'm just going to pause for a sec. How absurd is that? That one senator forced changes in the bill that essentially meant Democrats were negotiating against themselves despite getting not a single Republican vote. They voted down their own bill to give less checks out because Joe Manchin wanted that. Man, if there is one person you have to primary out, it's Joe Manchin. But it's going to be so tough to, I mean, we've seen the attempt before from Paula Jean Swearengin. For whatever reason, I don't get West Virginia at all. I don't know how they can be so pro-Trump yet vote for Joe Manchin, who is so pro-corporate, without just voting for a Republican instead. Like, I don't get the state at all. It doesn't make any sense to me. And everyone there is so poor. Yeah, they keep electing people who are very anti-poor. Like, it doesn't. The whole state really confuses me. I need someone from West Virginia to really explain to me what is going on there. But to have Manchin change the entire bill, it's absurd.
In helping poor and working people in America, that I think it's getting huge plaudits from the American people. When people start getting their checks, when they start getting the vaccines, when school starts opening, when kids can get out of poverty, that's huge. That's huge, Anderson.
If it is that popular, given that, or assuming that, despite that, there's still this unified Republican opposition to it, are you hopeful Republicans will join Democrats on anything, or Democrats will join Republicans on anything in the near future?
Well, I always say we want to work with Republicans where we can, but we have to get big, bold change done, and that is our number one priority. I, have a hope. I'm always an optimist. You know that, Anderson. That now that Republicans have seen we can do it without them, that they'll realize they ought to try to work with us. But we're not going to make the mistake of 2008 and 9 and do such a small, measly proposal that it won't get us out of the mess that we are in right now. The mess health-wise, the mess economically, and getting the economy going to the way it was 20, 30 years ago, when people's wages went up regularly, when unemployment went down regularly. We've had a rather placid economy, and I wouldn't even say placid. We've had a weak, limp economy over the last 10 years. We got to do a lot better than that to help the American people, give them hope. The American optimism that is so important is leaving people, and then they turn to a demagogue, a bigot like Donald Trump. We have to stop that. There's a moral obligation for us to stop that. And the way to do it is show positive change that helps people so there's a positive path and they don't turn to demagogues.
Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer.
I don't know why.
Trying to lose belly fat, stop doing cardio. This sounds backwards, right? Well, Believe it or not, it's actually.
I don't know why Schumer couldn't just whip the vote. Like, again, it's one senator. If this were Republicans, Mitch McConnell would be finding a way to whip the vote, so everyone votes together to pass whatever bill he wants. But when it comes to Schumer, the approach is giving in to one guy in opposition to everybody else that wants what's in the bill. Now, part of the problem, of course, is that the other senators aren't speaking up enough to fight back against that, to give Schumer the leverage he needs to force Joe Manchin to vote for the initial bill. But Schumer's obviously a very weak leader, and at this point he's trying to avoid a primary challenge that he's very worried about by coming out and rhetorically being for things like raising wages or canceling student debt, but not actually getting it done. It's very easy to say that you want to do something as somebody who's had an entire history of not doing those things. Very easy to come and say, okay, my position has moved now. Now I'm for these things. But if you don't actually take the steps necessary to pass any of it, to use your power as leader, to do any of it, then the words mean nothing. And again, Schumer has that power, but he doesn't appear to use it when he can. Okay, what else we got here? One more thing. I'm just going to play this without comment until I comment. But first, no comment.
So this is a dangerous drug that will impact our kids. If you legalize marijuana, you're going to kill your kids. That's what the data shows from around the country. And that's why it's dangerous to go around the established process we have to determine whether or not drugs are safe and effective, and why legalizing marijuana and going around the regulatory process to keep people safe is dangerous and going to harm our kids.
if you legalize marijuana, you're going to kill your kids. Oh my God. What year is this? This is completely absurd. Canada legalized marijuana a few years ago. As a Canadian that engages in some of this behavior, I'm well aware of this. No kids have died as a result of legalizing marijuana in Canada. I'm not sure what data he would point to. I would love to be in that room as a reporter and ask him, what data point to the study? What data shows you that legalizing marijuana kills children? Because Canada just legalized it. All data shows no kids have been killed by marijuana. In fact, you can't overdose on it. It's not possible. It's scientifically impossible for you to overdose on marijuana. That is a known fact. As the drug itself, it is not dangerous. And then you could of course bring up alcohol. That kills people all the time. It's legalized, regulated. I'm not saying it should be illegal, but of course you legalize and regulate these substances. You take it out of the hands of criminals. People that want it are going to get it anyways. Currently already get it anyways. This is, just to be clear here, Pete Ricketts of Nebraska. So they're going to get it anyways. All legalizing does is help people who are in jail for nonviolent offenses, gets them out of jail, and takes the drug out of the hands of criminals. And then you also generate tax revenue off of selling marijuana. Like I can't believe we're having this debate still. It is these people are out of their goddamn minds. And if anything, this guy clearly needs to hit a bong. All right. I believe that's it. But let me check the super chats and the normie chats. See what's going on. I want to jump on Twitch this weekend. Sunday night. More than likely. Sunday night I should be able to get on. My life is busy, but we'll try to get on. More chats here. Jeff says, after seeing how progressives were only willing to write a strongly worded letter regarding the $15 an hour minimum wage, how would you convince someone that electoral politics are still worth it in the end? Because the conversation has moved. Joe Biden today would not be signing the COVID relief bill that essentially sets up a quasi-UBI for kids that gives out $5,600 for the average family of four, that invests, the cash generated for people in this bill. And again, the bill is still just a Band-Aid. But the fact that we're even having this conversation, it shows you how far Democrats have moved. This is not Obama-era Democrats. They have moved left. Now, are they where they should be? No, not even close. But they have moved since the Obama era. Back in the Obama era, they were afraid of touching with their rescue plan, afraid of touching the $1 trillion number because somehow that was going to impact people. They would care if their bill was over $1 trillion. This is $1.9 trillion. So that fear out the window, and there's more of a willingness now to actually invest in people. Now, are you going to pass Medicare for all when it really hasn't become a discussion till 2016? You have to think about how little time there's been, really, in this entire discussion around progressive politics or left-wing politics. 4 years ago, there was no AOC, Ilhan Omar, Jamal Bowman, Cori Bush. These people didn't exist. Now they're beginning to take power. You have to understand there is limited power from people who do not control the majority of Congress. So while, yes, there's still ways that they should be using their power, people like the Progressive Caucus or the Squad should be using their power and have not done so, they still are in a clear minority. And the more you primary out, especially leaders of the party, I'll tell you when to lose hope. The only time you should actually lose hope is if someone like AOC becomes Speaker of the House and and Chuck Schumer's replaced by Bernie Sanders and still nothing gets done, then you can lose hope. But right now, people on the left, progressives, are not in power, in charge of the Democratic Party. So until you have, a Bernie Sanders-like president, who else is in the Senate that even cares about these issues? I guess Ed Markey, maybe, kind of. He's moved a bit. I would have said Warren in the past, but she's changed now. But if you have, until you have a Bernie-like presidency, a Bernie-like Senate leader, an AOC-like House leader, and nothing gets done, until that happens, you got to keep the hope, because there is absolutely the ability here to continue primarying out members of leadership to get things done. So, and really, I think a lot of it starts getting rid of replacing Pelosi as leader. That is definitely a major piece of it. But also, as I just said, Chuck Schumer as well. And these people are getting on in age and will not be there for that much longer. All right, what's next? Adrian Thomas says, I'm one of those 61% of Arizonans who supports passing major bills over keeping the filibuster. Sinema will be gone when she's up for re-election. I'm hearing that a lot from people in Arizona. Like seeing comments on Twitter or articles coming out of Arizona really criticizing her, because they expected, from my understanding, people in Arizona expected somebody different than the Sinema that they got, because Kyrsten Sinema, as I discussed earlier, used to be a member of the Green Party, has vocalized her support for wage increases. But you got somebody who is just all flair, no substance. It really appears to me, just as an outside observer, that Kyrsten Sinema is in politics for the attention. That she likes, wearing very expressive clothing, dyeing her hair, that kind of stuff, which I'm perfectly fine with. Cool, do that. But if you're all about surface level, if you're all about just the surface level politics, where it's more about your image, more about getting headlines about what you wore that day, as opposed to actually what you're fighting for, I think it's clear that you're not actually in it to fight for people. And seeing how she is now also informs me about what led to her politics before, being a member of the Green Party. That appears to be just for attention, because I don't know how you can go from being a member of the Green Party and supporting wage increases to being who you are now, unless you never actually had any conviction and never actually had any principles, never actually cared about helping people. For you, it was all about attention, and that's, to me, what it appears it's about for her. Douglas B says, for watching Twitter, I like tweetdeck.twitter.com. Yeah, I've used TweetDeck in the past. I don't know. Maybe one day I will find a need to use different programs. Leslie Petty says, tell Matthew McConaughey to move to West Virginia and run against Manchin instead of running for governor in Texas. I think that sounds like a great idea. But he's from Texas, so he may be seen as kind of an outsider that would not be as accepted in the state of West Virginia. But West Virginia, in terms of primarying Manchin, I think you need somebody with a big name. That seems to be the only way to really get him out. DVDV says, tweets of the week, nothing on PRO Act. It's exclamation marks. I covered the PRO Act this week, so I didn't see any for it to cover it today. In fact, let me find that video. So the Tim Ryan video. Tim Ryan goes wild, rips GOP over union bill. That one details the PRO Act, actually heavy detail. This is why it's important to watch all my videos. Not only does it help me, but oftentimes I will dive deep into issues that you aren't even aware I'm diving into based on the headline, because the way I produce a lot of these segments, my intention is to get your attention with the headline and then educate you over the course of the video. So sometimes a video will seem like clickbait, like it kind of seems like a little clickbait. Tim Ryan goes wild, rips GOP. But that's my intention, to get your attention with a clip like that and then dive into how unions benefit all workers. Like it's kind of the bait and switch that I do with a lot of my videos. So it's important to watch all my content because sometimes the headline doesn't necessarily describe what I'm talking about. And I thoroughly break down the bill here, by the way. Like, I go point by point in terms of what the PRO Act has and what current labor law has. So if you want more on the PRO Act, check out this video. Tim Ryan goes wild, rips GOP over union bill. Literal Lil says, I was watching Mike Figueredo stream on Twitch last night, and we were saying you two should play Mario Kart one day and race leftist gaming. I agree. In fact, I think there should be... I floated this idea, actually, with, I think with Mike. Yeah, with Mike and Progressive Voice. So maybe last year I thought about this. That there should be like a weekly... I don't know, a weekly hour or two where we just play games on stream. And just chat about whatever. I think that's a great idea. Whether it's Mario Kart or Super Smash or whatever. Rocket League, my favorite. That's a great idea. So definitely I would like to explore that. Because when you find a huge gamer who's also into politics, it's a great matchup for some streaming content. Gina McGrath says, which Cali rep do you think should replace Pelosi as leader or become California senator? Katie Porter or Ro Khanna? Katie Porter is queen, by the way. Well, I think I know where you're leaning. I don't have a hard opinion on this either way. Katie Porter or Ro Khanna, I'm perfectly fine with. But replacing Pelosi as... So as leader, I don't know. That's maybe a different discussion. Separate from California senator. But either or, Porter or Khanna would fit the bill there for me. I'm sure people could float more names up that I would be supportive of. I mean, I know it's not tradition to have somebody completely new to Congress become leader, but Nina Turner, if she wins her seat, that's who I would want to see as House leader, as Speaker. But would be kind of hard to... Not going to happen for a first-term congressperson, but it would be great. Handlebar Gamer says the amount of Republican voting restriction bills presented as proof of how afraid they are that we're winning. It's afraid they are that we're winning. It's slower than I'd like, but progress. Nina Turner, Nevada win of all seats, cannot stop. Yeah. The only reason Republicans have as many seats nationwide as they do is because of voter suppression, disenfranchisement. Obviously, the layouts of these districts have been gerrymangered. Now I forget the word, but you know what I'm talking about. Have been changed to the point where, I mean, there's Austin. Gerrymander. Austin, I think it's Austin, is completely, I think it's, yeah. There's a district in Texas that is completely ridiculous. Did my camera just flicker? Or is that just me? Let me see if I can find this. This one. This is insane. This is completely insane. How is this a district? So I guess it's San Antonio. Oh, San Antonio to... This is one district? Austin to San Antonio? That's insane. But, like, this is the only reason that Republicans have as many seats as they do. Just... absurd maps. You will not see any district or any riding, as it's called in Canada, like this in Canada. These sorts of ridings don't exist. Just wacky. DVDV says, "Oh, you right. Sorry, seen it, but tweets of the week." Yes, sorry, tweets of the week. I forgot. Here, if I forget tweets of the week, this is what you got to do. Just go to my profile page. Let's do it right now. And just see what I retweeted this week. that's maybe worth discussing. So these are my tweets. Let's see what I retweeted this week. Not really a tweet of the week, but it is outrageous that Jordan Sheridan has had videos pulled by YouTube of the Capitol riots, even though it's footage that is being used by like NBC and other stations. Just, again, I discussed earlier, but YouTube is just completely crazy sometimes. What's this about? It involves too much explaining. Not doing that one. I covered that today. Check out that video. This, I did not cover this because I don't know if I could cover it without screaming. This Uber driver who was assaulted by passengers after one of them allegedly refused to wear a mask. And nothing sets me off more than the combination of stupid and arrogant. Or stupid and asshole, I guess is a better way to put it. And that's what these three are. Here we go. Brooklyn Dad. I could have covered this. Brooklyn Dad has spent the past few years insisting that Russian bots were being paid to sow division and influence our elections on Twitter, was being paid by a PAC to sow division and influence our elections on Twitter. So if you don't know what the story is about, Brooklyn Dad is a popular Twitter account that was discovered this week being paid by Democrats to sow division among the left and the conservative part of the Democratic Party. During the primary, he was, out there, of course, shit-talking Bernie Sanders, and the whole time was being paid to do so. My guess is there are several of these people online, on Twitter. I got a few other names in mind that do similar things or have had crazy swings in their political ideology that no doubt in my mind are being paid. If you're Canadian, check out The Breach Media. This is a new, more left-wing outlet that is launching in Canada. Check them out. What else here for tweets of the week? I don't know. I didn't really retweet that much that is interesting. Let's watch this. In case you missed it this week, this is incredibly entertaining.
The American experiment is the way to go. And if we have two American women, Meghan Markle and Oprah Winfrey, who are single-handedly finishing what George Washington and our revolutionary counterparts did, I'm all for it.
Okay.
The American...
Whoopi Goldberg. Sometimes the comedian comes out. Fantastic. It's the only response that Meghan McCain should be given. Okay. Checking the chat here. Master asks, hey David, would you think about watching Second Thought videos and react to them? I don't know what that is. So without knowing, it's hard to know. Let me check the chat. I had earlier, this means nothing to any of you guys, but Streamlabs, which gives me notifications for when chats come in, for some reason was going through the entirety of all my super chats. And I was hearing when I was about to go live, every 2 seconds, I would hear the audio notification of the super chat, and for some reason, it's going through every single one of them. It was doing it for a while, and I had to turn off the audio. So now, I'm saying this because now if I get a new chat, I don't know it's coming in, and I have to go back every time to check. But here we go. There is a new one. John Crow says, from Austin, can confirm. In Chip Roy's district, which is cut up like a pie, like the rest of Travis County. Yeah, so that's the crazy one I just showed you. The district that's goes from Austin to what is it, San Antonio? Ridiculous. All right, tweets of the week. I'm not sure. Sorry, not much here this week. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like I was on Twitter less this week as well. But it is what it is. All right. Also, here you go. I saw Christo in the chat. Check out his new podcast, Left Turn Canada, Canadian podcast. Definitely, we need more Canadian content. from people who know what they're talking about. And Christo does. I feel like I'm a little less, informed on what is happening in Canada just because of the nature of what I've always been into. I've just always been more into American politics. It was my entry point. So it's not like I went from Canada to the U.S. I was always more into the American discussion. But Christo, historian, check him out. Check out his new podcast. I listened to the recent episode with Nikki Ashton discussing the fallout of her discussion with Jeremy Corbyn that I covered earlier on my channel. Crazy stuff. Check him out. All right. Anything else? Refreshing super chat. Let me check normie chat. Oh, here we go. It's not only you. Streamlabs is glitching. All right, good. Good to know. It's not just me. Looks like a new chat came in. Razoso says, Second Thought has great videos. Highly recommend. All right. Well, I don't know anything, so let me check it out. I will hit subscribe. I'll check them out later. All right, let's check the normie chat here. What's going on here? Ava Darkness says America is unfortunately a garage fire reality show. Quite the description. Let's see here, scrolling up. I don't know. Not much standing out here. Here we go. Some drama from one iron something. Says, why do you think Sam Cedar forced Jamie Peck off the Majority Report? Oh shit. First of all, you're assuming he forced her off. I don't know if that's true. I know Jamie's starting a new podcast with a couple of other people, so that may be why she left. She wants to focus completely on that new podcast. I have no idea though. I don't know. It did seem a little abrupt though, for sure, but it's possible it was planned for a while and then she just announced it, the day before. I don't know. I wish I could be a little more into the drama, but that's Progressive Voice's job. I can't take his job. Did you all know that John McCain was her father? Speaking of Meghan McCain, very funny. Winston says Progressive Voice drama. I think he already has a video on it, actually. So yeah, check out his voice or his video on that. All right. Oxford Comma says people change and grow. Koru says she just moved on, David. The Ralph says Jamie looked bored. Yeah, I have no idea. All right. Thank you all for showing up. I will try to be on Twitch this weekend. So follow me on Twitch. Make sure you are following there so you know when I go live. There is a new chat, I believe, here. DVDV says, thank you for a great show and have a great weekend. Thank you, too. Thank you for all your support today. I think you may be the one that sent the most super chats today. But all of you, whether you sent one or several, thank you for your support. It really helps me out, especially with YouTube, as I discussed earlier, being super weird. But thank you all. All right. See you all hopefully this weekend. Goodbye.